What is going on, People's G? And I am back in the building for you guys, and we're back with another match reaction as Liverpool 5:45 kickoff. Yes, I said it. 5:45 kickoff today, as our European campaign gets underway. This time, not in the Champions League, but in the Europa League. Liverpool's first game of the Europa League up against Lask. Liverpool run away as 3-1 winners. Obviously, we'll dive into the game in itself. Just before we do that, guys, please make sure you like, please make sure you share, and please make sure you subscribe to the channel. As it says, scroll across the bottom, we are en route to 900 subs. So please, 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 guys, if you could do that for me, just hit that subscribe button and make sure you guys are sharing this out. But without further ado, let's dive into it. And let me know also, people, in the comment section, whilst you guys are watching this, let me know, what did you guys think of the performance? Who was your man of the match? What did you think of the overall performance, the changes that Jurgen Klopp made, obviously, in the game? We're going to get into all of that in a second, but let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Let's go.
Now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep fitting in love.
Yes, people. Obviously, we're back here again for another match reaction. Thursday nights, I'm still not really 100% used to it myself, if I'm being totally honest with you. But we're here now. We're here. So we've got to just deal with it for the time being. Hopefully, Liverpool could obviously navigate their way through this competition. We win this competition, we get back to the Champions League, or we can obviously qualify, through the league table. But as I mentioned before, Liverpool running out 3-1 winners against Lask. Looking at it briefly as an overview of the game, obviously I've just got the lineup here for you guys to be able to see. Obviously you guys can see on your screens right now. This was our lineup. Obviously Kelleher in goal, Bajcetic at right back, Konate, Van Dijk in the middle, Tsimikas at left back. Midfield three consisting of Elliott, Endo, and Gravenberch making his first start for Liverpool. And then Luis Diaz, Nunes, and Ben Doak. Now, as always, guys, please don't pay any attention to the ratings that they give. Obviously, for those who obviously watch the game, you can make your own ratings and stuff like that. And as I mentioned before, guys, please let me know in the comment section what ratings that you're giving the players, and also just what rating you're giving Liverpool in a general sense. So obviously before the game, myself and Jerry did a live watch along. Obviously we're talking about the lineup and things like that. Yeah, I wasn't even too fussed with the lineup, if I'm being totally honest. Maybe Van Dijk and Konate. I don't really want to see them in these kind of games. Obviously, I'm of the belief that Virgil is still suspended, I think, for the next game against West Ham. Obviously suspended for the last game due to that red card he received against Newcastle. I'm sure he got an extra game ban, so he would be banned for the game against West Ham. So this might be his only game really to play, because then I think we've got a League Cup game against Leicester City at home after the West Ham game. So yeah, this might be his only game to really get some minutes and stuff like that in. So I wasn't too fussed, really and truly. More Konate, he's injury prone. And I'm very worried about managing his minutes. He did come off obviously towards the last 10 minutes of the game. So, I know Klopp's also worried about that as well. That was quite evident by bringing on Matip afterwards later on in the game. But yeah, I'm not going to complain too much about the back line too tough. I mean, your options then would have been Gomez and or Matip. And we already know what those two obviously look like at the back there. Jarell Kwanzaa as well. Maybe he just wasn't really too fit enough to start. Obviously, I think he went off in the last game. Can't remember what it was. I'm going to say cramp. It could have been something else, but he just obviously couldn't last the full 90 minutes up against Wolves. So yeah, the back line was the back line. Again, I've got no complaints, if I'm being totally honest with you. it is what it is. I understand the Virgil thing. If he is suspended for the West Ham game, I do get it as to why he would have played. Obviously, Keller in goal, that's obvious. Midfield, obviously, we've got Gravenberch making his first start for Liverpool. I was really excited to see him. He was actually my man of the match for Liverpool. Yeah, interesting to see him obviously in there. Endo makes sense. Otherwise, why the hell did you even bother signing the guy? And Elliott's been, in my opinion, he's been really good coming off the bench. Do you know what I mean? I feel like he's deserved to start a game, fairly soon. And I guess the Europa League obviously represents a very good opportunity for him to do so. So, yeah, Elliott starting in this game again. Again, even the midfield, can't think of anyone else. Thiago, who's that? You know what I mean? Who is he? Jones and all these guys, maybe they're more first teamers, so to speak. They're probably going to get the game against West Ham. Obviously, the last game as well against Wolves, the midfield were absolutely shocking. So really all of them probably could and should have been dropped anyway. So again, midfield, I've got no problems with that. Up front on the right wing, we've got obviously Ben Doak. Happy to see him start on that right wing. I think it's about time, obviously, we start seeing him, in these kind of games, just to get him some minutes, get him used to playing with some of the first team players, or, some of the first team players, some of the rotation players, whatever you want to call Nunes and Diaz, and going towards looking at Nunes and Diaz. Again, Diaz maybe was the only one I was more surprised about that he played in this game. Maybe Klopp probably done his research, probably realized that, on that right-hand side for Lask might be an area that maybe we need someone with a tad bit more experience, a bit more explosiveness, and maybe someone who can, be a bit more threat in behind in that area. So maybe Diaz probably represented the best choice for him. So really the lineup in a general sense, I really wasn't complaining at all. To be honest with you, they were just, the ones where you could have swapped this guy for that guy and maybe that guy for this guy potentially. But, in a general sense, I think no one was really too fussed with the lineup. I think most of us were happy to see Ben Doak start. Obviously, Keller as a given, and Gravenberch. I think we were all excited to see, what he could do, in the game in itself. And even looking at Gravenberch in a general sense, in the game, I felt like Gravenberch had a decent game. I felt like Gravenberch had a decent game, got himself an assist as well. I think it was for Luis Diaz's goal. I felt like his all-round game was actually pretty decent, to be honest with you. That's why I gave him the man of the match. I felt in the game he was picking up the ball in decent positions. We weren't really that good anyway, and obviously I'll get onto the team's performance in a second. We weren't really that good, but he himself was showing all of his capabilities. So being able to pick up the ball, drive with the ball, very strong runner, good close ball control, good dribbling ability. The only thing I probably had that was annoying me the most about him was that when he does get in those areas and he does get closer to goal, just shoot, man. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, again, I don't know the instructions that Klopp's giving these players. So for all I know, Klopp told him when you get in and around the box, don't shoot, just pass, see if you can find a spare man, unless you're wide open, kind of thing. But there were times when I did feel that maybe you should take the shot on. Trust in your abilities, trust in yourself, Gravenberch, man. I think there really is a player in there. I see a lot of people talking about, once Klopp gets a hold of him and this, that, and the third. Now, I hope he doesn't. I really, really hope that Klopp does not get a hold of him and stifles him, like he's done with many other players that I've seen before at Liverpool, in terms of what they can actually do and what they can actually give you on the pitch. I think someone like a Gravenberch, the game that he kind of played today, you give him more minutes, you give him more time on the football pitch, we'll see a lot more of that. For me, I just feel like his overall game performance and stuff like that, I don't even really want to look at the stats, to be honest, of the game. I don't actually care in regards to today's game. The game this evening. I don't really want to look at too much of the stats because when you're watching the game and stuff like that, I think his performance really spoke for itself. Obviously, towards the end there, getting a little bit tired and stuff like that, which is understandable. But, it is what it is. It is what it is. Another, actually, we will actually look at the numbers because I know people love our numbers and that. This is for all my tacticos. Is that what they call? Is that what they call people now? The tacticos. 74 minutes, got himself an assist. 23 out of 33 passes, 70%. 4 chances created, 49 touches, no successful dribbles. 4 passes into the final third. Duels 1, 5, lost 6. Ground duels 5 out of 10. Was fouled 4 times. Yeah, man. For me, like I said, The stats didn't even need to even really tell me that. I felt like his performance was really, really solid on his first start for Liverpool in that kind of a midfield where it's an inexperienced midfield in terms of they've never played together. It's their first game. None of these guys are starters at yet, so to speak, right now. So Endo and Elliott, both players who are more likely to come off the bench and stuff like that. So yeah, for me, absolutely fine, fine in his performance. Another player I wanted to take a look at was this man or this boy, this teenager, however old, I think he's like 19, 20 now, is Stefan Bajcetic. Obviously has been out injured for a long time. Got himself injured towards the back end of last season. Again, I was happy to see him start the game. It's been a long time coming as well. And what I was interested to see was where he would play. Now, Klopp kind of played him in this kind of inverted role, in the game, the Trent position, so to speak. Obviously, every now and again, he would, get himself up and down, that right-hand side and found himself in positions where he should be crossing the ball. But, he just wasn't really doing it. He does like to take the extra touch at times. He's good with the ball at his feet. Again, another player's got good close ball control. He's got a very good pass on him as well. So I can kind of really understand, maybe why Klopp would have put him instead of maybe a Gomez potentially. Now, obviously, if he was as good as Gomez defensively, he could be a really top player because he's got the technical ability. Obviously, not nowhere near as good as Trent, but who is. But just in a general sense, he's got really, really good technical ability. So, seeing someone like him on that side, it was interesting. And I know a lot of people have spoken about potentially putting him on that kind of, in that, Trent position. Can he just come in and slot, potentially next to Endo, in there? I felt like overall he played like a guy who's been out injured. I thought it was a poor performance, really and truly, from him, both defensively and offensively, barring a few passes here and there that he did make in the game. I didn't really feel like he had a good game, if I'm being honest. But again, context got to be applied. He's been out injured, etc., etc. But if I'm just judging it solely on this game in itself, yeah, I wasn't really too happy with his performance on that right-hand side. I felt like he was, it was just more defensively. I was looking at him. As I mentioned, he's got pass on him and stuff like that. But even when he got into the forward areas, I just felt like he was quite wasteful in a sense where maybe not picking out the right pass or, one too many dribbles. Maybe you should just be popping it off, playing a 1-2, going for the run, going again kind of thing. Finding that space down that right-hand side. Again, it's a new position for him. So I don't expect him to be fantastic. But again, I can only judge it solely on this game and this game only, which is what I'll always do. And yeah, based on this game alone, I didn't really feel like he was really that good, to be honest with you. But again, he's just come back, got minutes into his legs, 61 minutes today or this evening. So, that will stand him in good stead. Obviously, I don't expect him to be starting at the weekend, barring a crazy injury crisis. So, yeah, maybe he comes on as a sub again. If Trent hopefully is back fit, maybe he can be a deputy for him if we're winning the game 2-3, 4-0 or whatever it is against West Ham. Maybe he comes on. Maybe we can see a bit of a different option. Maybe we can see something else, in that kind of position. One thing I will say, though, about this whole inverted role, whether it be Tsimikas doing it or Bajcetic this time or Gomez in the game against Wolves. One thing I will say, though, is, which I find quite interesting, Jurgen Klopp changed this whole tactic where Liverpool start playing with the inverted, fullback, and then he slots in next to, say, Endo as an example in this position. We changed this whole thing for Trent Alexander-Arnold to be able to utilize what we thought is Trent's strengths, so to speak. My thing with this kind of tactic is that when you're changing a style and a tactic for just one player, when that one player isn't there, I would expect you to set up differently. I don't expect you to still set up the same way. That's really a trait of Klopp, to be honest with you, that he's very stuck in. Once he finds something, that's it, not deviating. I can't really figure out to play something different or do something different, etc., etc. Things kind of have got to remain the same. I don't really like that, if I'm being honest with you. And as we saw in that first half, yet again, another first half. Another first half, another performance from Liverpool where starting slowly, concede another goal, which is another game, another goal conceded, another poor performance in the first half, looking sluggish, slow starters, all these kind of things that I think you guys who've been watching my match reactions, I've said in probably every single match reaction bar the Aston Villa game. Bar the Aston Villa game. And I think that was the one match reaction I didn't do. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it seems to be a common theme. It seems to be a common theme from Liverpool, really since the back end of last season. I think now we're on a 17 game unbeaten run, and I think that's always the caveat. That is always the caveat that quite a lot of people keep telling me, and Liverpool fans, shouting hurrah. That is the caveat. Ultimately, Liverpool on 17 games unbeaten. Am I happy with that? Of course, I don't want to be losing games in the first place. I'm tired of watching Liverpool lose games. Yeah, I mean, like I was doing last season. But then there's also something to be said about the performances that we've had over this period of time. I could probably count on one hand the amount of good performances in 17 games. I don't know, man. That for me, I keep saying this word, sustainability. Now, this might just be one of those weird seasons where the sustainability thing won't even actually matter. Liverpool might be able to just kind of do their thing and just keep conceding goals every single game, keep looking quite vulnerable, defensively, but we just outscore teams. We've got a fantastic attack, and we've got so many good attacking players that it just might not matter. And that's what's going around in my head at this current moment in time. I don't know what you guys think, but that's what I'm kind of thinking at the moment, is that it's just not going to matter anyway. Do you know what I mean? If whether or not we keep conceding goals, because we can always outscore. I mean, it didn't work too well in 13-14. When we had probably the best striker in the world, and we don't have that at the moment. So, whether that can continue, I don't know. But for me, it just confuses me when I see the way that Liverpool sets up in these kind of games, or just in games in general this season, but towards the back end of last season, but focusing solely on this season, the way that we set up defensively, the way that I cannot understand, is it a mentality thing in terms of, starting the game really, really slow? I don't understand why it would be a mentality thing. Mentality monsters and all that. I mean, surely you don't want to keep coming from behind to win games. Surely you decide to wake up from minute one. I would like to think that you would do that, but for some weird reason this season we just constantly keep starting slow in these games. It's baffling me. It really does baffle me. And as I keep saying, I just don't know how long that lasts. But if it's going to be one of them kind of seasons, hey, I'm here for it, man. I guess we'll just have to scummy our way. If by December or November, we're in September, October, November. If by like November we're still in this kind of position, we're playing poorly, in my opinion, or no, I'm not say poorly, actually, not playing well, and we're still winning games, I guess that will change my thinking in terms of what I think Liverpool can do, purely because then I'll know, okay, clearly this season is one of those seasons that we don't actually have to play well, but we'll outscore more or less most teams. So is it going to really matter about defensively? Probably not. So I guess we'll obviously we have to wait and see. So it'll be 5 games in the Prem, and 1 game in the Europa League. So we still got time to kind of see how this, really, really pans out. But yeah, Endo in the middle there. Do I think he had a good performance? No, I don't think it was as bad as people made out, though. I saw quite a lot of people talking about him. I don't think it was that bad, to be honest with you. I don't think it was as bad as Elliot anyway. And I thought Elliot was poor, was absolutely poor in this game. I don't know what it was, but Elliot just wasn't really clicking. Really, really wasn't clicking for me in this game, man. But it just looked like he just was everywhere, but just doing nothing. Do you know what I mean? He was kind of wasteful, useless in most positions. Yeah, wasn't really happy with Elliot, but yeah, Endo, I didn't think he was too bad. I really didn't think he was too bad. Obviously, we move on to the attack, and the other player I wanted to take a look at was Ben Doak. Obviously, making his, I believe, first start for Liverpool in a competitive fixture on that right wing. 61 minutes again, coming off same time as Bajcetic. Poor game from him, if I'm being totally honest with you. I don't think he really was able to get too into the game. He had, again, just like most, and it's so difficult when looking at individual players when you start talking about them and the team are already playing bad, because then everyone's playing bad. Do you get what I mean? But he in particular, because he's one of the players I really wanted to see and really wanted to look at, he was one of the ones in the attack. Obviously, he was the worst of the 3 anyway, but just in a general sense, his whole game, I can tell he's very inexperienced at this current moment in time. But ultimately, if you're old enough, if you're playing, you're old enough at the end of the day. If you're old enough, you're good enough, whatever you want to say. And for me, I just felt like he just lacks that kind of composure, man. When he gets in and around the box, I'm just like, Oh my God. Like, I get it. It can come with experience. Of course it can. Over time, you start to learn when you get into those kind of positions consistently, you will get into a place where it's like, okay, I know what to do now. So I like Bendo, by the way. I think he's a top talent, top young talent anyway, for Liverpool, but just in a general sense. And Scotland have really got a gem on their hands. But yeah, in this game, I just felt like he was poor. I felt like that whole right hand side really was actually quite poor, to be honest with you. And if you look at that right hand side anyway, look how inexperienced it is, look how young it is, And I know we're coming up against Lask, but ultimately for me, they were better down their left side than we were down our right side. So it's one of those kind of things. It is generally one of those kind of things. Hopefully, we can obviously rectify that in a sense. I mean, we had to really, we didn't, for me, we came out better in the second half, and everyone keeps using this again as a bloody caveat, but we came out better in that second half, but I still didn't think we were all that, and really until Szoboszlai and Mo Salah kind of came onto the pitch. Once these guys came onto the pitch, you could almost see the quality level just started to rise. Of course, Szoboszlai, Salah, heck, even Gomez came onto the pitch, even though he was a little bit shaky, a little bit with his moments. But once those two especially came onto the pitch, you could just see the quality level rose. And then Lask were just like, yeah, well, we can't really, we can't really compete with this kind of quality, especially when we got Mo Salah, coming onto the pitch. But in that first half, again, Lask scored a very, very good goal. Brilliantly worked, set piece, corner coming in, edge of the box, everyone running in, but he's left free on the outside. Obviously, I think Gravenberch tried to close him down, just wasn't really quick enough to get there, and absolutely rasped it into the back of the net. Fantastic goal. You really just don't save those, I guess. So yeah, that was kind of it. And the worst thing about it, I don't even think they had about 7 shots on goal. In fact, we'll take a little look at the statistics for the game in itself. There we go. Yeah, you guys can hopefully see that on your screens. Make it a bit larger for you. So obviously you can see, look, we had the line share possession. I think that's like a theme for Liverpool. That's one thing I always notice. We always have line share possession, but it's just doing nothing. Expected goals, we were way better. We had 14 shots on goal. So heck, I expect our expected goals to be better. They had no big chances. We had 5. They didn't miss any big chances, obviously. They had 7 shots in total in the game in itself. Yeah, I don't feel it was such a crazy game because I never really felt like they were doing too much. It was more we were just playing well below our own standards kind of thing. I feel like that was kind of it for me. We were just playing, really well below, our standards. So yeah, it was one of those kind of games, but I feel like I'm constantly having this conversation. I'm constantly, every match reaction I've done, it is the same thing over and over again. It's that for me, I just don't see this as a sustainable way to continue playing. But again, the caveat is always going to be we are winning. So because we are winning, then we got to just move. Yeah, I mean, we generally just got to move. Do you know what I mean? I can't. I'm not going to get onto the guys for winning games. Do you get what I mean? As long as you can keep winning, then not a problem. I just think later on in the season, people say about it not clicking. I feel like it. I wouldn't even say I can't say it's clicking because these some like Szoboszlai and McAllister, they're still new. They still need to get a bit more climatized. I just don't know how much better it gets from here. That's my only thing. I just don't know how much better it gets, from this position. But, we'll wait and see. Núñez getting himself a goal and an assist as well. That's good for his confidence. I said it before the game. He needs to. It's so weird because Núñez is one of those players. If you start him and he doesn't really do well, then it's like, well, what else can we then do? Then you're bringing on like the gap pose and whatever, and then that's a completely different type of game. Just like when you start Núñez off the bench and he comes on in the game, he's here to stretch the game and stuff like that. But if stretching the game isn't working, then kind of like we're almost like, oh crap, what do we, what do we kind of do? And I think today's game, the penalty situation, I don't think that's a penalty at all. I don't even think Diaz dived or anything. I just think that it was at the point of contact, Diaz is already going down. He was already like basically on the floor and the guys then touched him. So for me, I think it was a fortuitous penalty. Obviously, we got that at that time to then make it 1-1. And then obviously from there, it was then just really about, as you guys can obviously see on the right-hand side, Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gomez, Salah, later on, all these guys kind of coming on to kind of affect the game in itself. But I don't think Jurgen Klopp will be sitting there bundles of joy, you know, at having to bring on. I mean, I don't know. I don't really listen to press conferences anymore, if I'm being honest. But um, I wouldn't. I would think, especially because he's a top manager, I would think he'll be sitting there saying, "Well, I didn't want to have to bring on Szoboszlai, McAllister, Joe Gomez, Salah. Like, why am I bringing these guys on? We should have enough on that pitch. And if I'm looking at that team, I'm sorry, but you should have enough on the pitch to be able to affect play." People say, "Oh, new team and this, that, and the other." Not really. Keller, yeah, Bajcetic obviously just come back, but he was a mainstay in the team last season towards the back end. Konate, Van Dijk, Tsimikas have played together. It's only really the midfield that I'm looking at thinking, and then obviously Ben Doak on the right-hand side. But yeah, I can't see any problem with the team. People were ecstatic with the team, you know, and again, we put in that kind of first half. It's for me, it's just weird. It's honestly, it is just generally weird why we keep playing like this and why the performances keep coming out like that. But ultimately, we got the 3 points. I believe we will probably top the group. I haven't seen the other game, but hopefully we do top the group. And obviously, we just move on to the next game at the weekend against West Ham. Hopefully, we can get the victory up against West Ham. We've seen what Mikel Antonio has obviously been saying about Liverpool recently, so it will be quite interesting to see how we can obviously navigate that situation. But guys, let me know in the comment section, what do you think about today's game? Do you think we deserve the victory? Do you think we performed well? Where do you see improvements in the team? Is this sustainable? Let me know, obviously, what you guys think. Also, let me know who your man of the match was, and let me know what you guys think heading into the game against West Ham. I'm G. That's the match reaction done and dusted. We are outie.